I know that you can read, at least I hope so that you can, and that you saw the title, and it's saying, should we trust Jagex? And the answer to the question might actually be yes. And I know that's a controversial take, however, I'm going to explain it in this video, so let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on guys, my name is Chevalric, and today we're going to be talking about why I think we should be trusting Jagex a little bit more and giving them some more credit than we actually do. Because, let's be honest, whatever Jagex does at this point, it's never good, right? With the new skill release, like, oh yeah, they haven't given us enough information yet. Or, oh, they're going back on the wilderness threat system. Oh yeah, see, we were saying it was bad design and now they're thinking of it. Or they're doing data analysis, like, oh yeah, they don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, are you like, hello? Anyway, we're going to be talking about all of that in this video. But if you're going to enjoy it, definitely go give it a like. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think we should trust Jagex? Or do you think that, you know, mistrusting them because what they did 10 years ago is fair? Because I feel like that's where it stems from. And in my opinion, that's not really fair. Also, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Twitch. I stream every single day at 6 p.m. game time. Join the Discord. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So, as I mentioned, let's start with where this kind of stemmed from. And let's be honest, it is probably from empty promises and mainly, obviously, random EOC and the Squeal of Fortune. I feel like a lot of hurt still nowadays comes from their communication and the way they handled Squeal of Fortune, EOC, etc, etc. And I could argue that it's fair because the way they handled it wasn't really fair. Like, EOC, sure, they communicated on it. Like, there was not a communication. People just didn't like it when it released and it was clunky and whatever. They fixed it now, whatever. But I think it's mainly the Squeal of Fortune and all the MTX that they always release, right? Like, everyone is always against it. And I don't want to make this another MTX video, but obviously I have to bring it up because I feel like that's a huge part, because people just seem to look at that as the only thing that Runescape gets. And during the pandemic, and also I think the year before as well, no, not the year before, even during the pandemic, there was this notion around Jagex, and I made an entire video about like our game updates were getting worse or something. Go check that out if you're really interested in more detail in it. But pretty much the TLDW for that video is, we have this notion that Jagex only does MPX updates or patch notes or whatever, and that's just simply not the case. Like, that is literally not true. If you go back through the wiki page that details all the updates, you could only really see in the pandemic year that there were less meaningful updates, which makes sense, doesn't it? Like, hello, they were working from home and whatever. And sure, at the start of the pandemic, we had archaeology and other big things, which also an argument. But let's be honest, the majority of that was developed outside of it, right? And I feel like a lot of people forget that. And another thing that I always like to bring up as well, and a lot of people don't want to accept either, is that the cost of developing games nowadays has gone up so much that it isn't just as easy to just hire so many people and just create a lot of big meaningful content like they used to do back in the day. That's just not how it goes anymore. It's sad, but it's just something we need to accept. And sure, the money is there to do so, but let's be honest, we also know how corporate organizations work, and they will not be spending that money. And that's just what gaming became over the years. It's just a corporate organization. But these are just explanations on the whole whatever. Like, even MTX, it's just something they need to do, right? Like, it's something they need to do, and they're kind of being told from higher up, like, hey, we need to have this in the game. Trust me, the team of the developers that actually make the game, that make the content, that design everything, I would bet my entire Runescape bank, which is quite substantial at the moment, that they would not want MTX in the game, and they would not have it, but obviously to keep it alive, business, etc. But what I'm trying to get to with like why we should trust Jagex is mainly because I feel like, especially over the last year, and I would like to give credit to the new Dutchman in charge, the I think it's called Mod Keeper, I think his name is. I'm sorry if I'm confusing him with the older one, because it used to be Mod Warden, and now I think it's Mod Keeper. It's the Dutch guy, the new Dutch guy, the new product manager of RuneScape 3. I feel like he has the right mentality of dealing with this game. And I'm not just defending him because he's also Dutch, or that Jagex is telling me to do so. I wish they did, because they would probably pay me money for it, and good money for that. But from what I've seen from him, like his introduction, if you're curious, go watch it back. Like, there's an introduction live stream on him. And just in general, the mindset of the team ever since that live stream, at least for me, has changed for the positive. They're looking at, okay, how can we impact the game positively? How can we make sure that the game is future-proof? Because I feel like that's important. Obviously, you know my stance on like early game, right? Like that is something they need to redo, and hopefully in the future they will do. But even with something like the character model rework, they're looking at future-proofing it instead of being like, okay, let's just make it work with how it is in the game right now, and then in the future we'll see how it goes. And pretty much the issue that they explained with it is that they need to develop an entire new system regarding the character model, which takes a substantial amount of more time, which they only encountered during development. Believe what you want about it, but I generally feel like that's something you would encounter, and they also really know and are aware of how important it is to make character model reworks. And I'd rather have them shelve a project like that for the foreseeable future, not canceling it, but shelving it for the foreseeable future to make an actual working system around it, than them making the system to have better character reworks. And then in the future, when there's new things have to be added or things have to be changed, or, you know, they introduce a new race to play in RuneScape, whatever, that there's like, yeah, but like the system doesn't really support it, and then they need to rewrite the system anyway, you know? Like that's not what you want, and that's like a bigger issue, at least in my opinion, than having to wait for it or something not coming out. And I feel like they're doing that with a lot of things as well. Like a lot of people are still angry about the G-tax. It's like, oh yeah, why are we taxing people? Like skillers or something, or cluers or whatever, should not have to deal with the repercussions of death costs being lowered, and where there's an argument to be made for that. At the same time, they also used real life independent economics or economacy, people that studied economy pretty much, to see and look at the RuneScape community, or economy, and what needs to be done and what's the best and most viable method. And I feel like that's actual expertise, instead of just someone in the team just going over some numbers and being like, yeah, no, that sounds like a good plan. No, they had someone whose literal job it is to look at markets and the way they work and what would be good and bad for them, right? So I feel like that is just something to show that they are really working on it. And the same with like the polls. They just did Fresh Out Worlds, and they're asking the community for actual feedback to be able to do things with it. They listen to feedback with the wilderness, because recently, as me making this video on the 26th of January, they said they're removing the threat system because, well, at the end of the day, it didn't really work. And I mean, I've been one of the people that's been saying that since the start, and they are changing it and they're removing it. It's not really clear on what exactly they're going to be doing it, but they're definitely going to remove it. And people are like, oh yeah, they're just crawling back on what they used to do. Or, yeah, see, they made something bad and they're trying to fix it now in hindsight. And I'm like, but don't you want your game to be like, hey, you know what, actually it wasn't that great of an idea, or it didn't work out as we thought it would, so we're changing it now anyway? Wouldn't you rather have that than them being like, oh yeah, but it was our idea, so yeah, you just have to deal with it, bro? Like, I don't get it. What is it that you want, right? Like, that is my main question for you. What is it that you want? Like, for example, Call of Duty, they asked about the minimap. And if you haven't played Call of Duty, it doesn't matter. But they asked something about the minimap and people not showing up on the minimap when they fire guns, which always used to be the case. The community in the beta has said, hey, look, we all want this. And I think there was like an 85% poll saying we want the old minimap back. And what did they do? Yeah, they came out with a statement saying, yeah, but this is our game design, deal with it. That is not what you want from your game. I way rather have RuneScape say, yeah, look, listen, it wasn't a great idea, let's change it. And I feel like they also shouldn't be changing just things because the community thinks it's a bad idea, right? Because at the end of the day, we are not game developers. We are not data analysts, because that is also something really important. We might think something like Heads Oasis had no impact on the game, like the actual skilling part, not the removing of the dueling arena, right? And we might be looking at it, well, I don't interact with it because I'm maxed. But they might be able to see how many people actually interact with their content. And maybe that's exactly on their markers, or maybe over it, or just slightly under it. And it's actually not as bad as we think it is, because we just look at it from our perspective, or from streams, or, you know, how much it's talked about within our communities. But maybe in the wider community, it is a bigger thing and it is more important. And I feel like them being more open about it is a very, very good thing, because they are open about it on the Twitters of the JMods. JMods answer a lot of questions on Twitter, and I still feel like there needs to be a thread or something on the website just summarizing all the answers of the JMods, so like the general public can actually be informed by it if they're not on Reddit or Twitter. But still, like, they're replying to it, and they're doing these live streams, and they're actually replying to some things that are going on in the community. And look, I know Jagex is not perfect, and they're still dodging some questions, or there's still things that people do not like, right? Or that they're not answering. And I get it. Like, sometimes I feel like a lot of the decisions, especially the bigger ones, you cannot be expecting just your regular content developer to be answering that said question, because let's be honest, like, it's probably not their call. Like, they're just a soldier in the army, so to say. Like, they're just being told, hey, look, you need to make this piece of content, deal with it. Like, I always watch the live streams and see people ask, like, oh yeah, there's a new overpowered treasure hunters promotion. And I'm like, yeah, a content developer doesn't really, you know, have anything to do with that. And they should not be addressing it. And I've said it multiple times, but I'll say it again. Don't harass the actual developers of the game, because they're not to blame for anything that you don't like. And sure, they might come up with content that you do not like, or developed it, or maybe even like fully created it. But in general, like, the really bad things like MTX or whatever is not on their call. And you should not be angry at them with it. But what the point I'm just trying to make in this video is, like, I feel like we should give them a little bit more credit and a little bit more trust, because over the last 2 years, or at least year and a half, they've really met their promises, and I feel like they're really working on the things that they are saying to you. And when they promote a roadmap, they actually are sticking to it, which I know they didn't do in the past. But at the same time, right now they're doing it, and right now they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job with communicating. They're doing a great job with listening to the community. And sure, it can always improve and it can always be better, but hey, we're all humans and we can all improve on that to begin with. But yeah, that is just my opinion, right? I'm genuinely very curious to hear what you think, because as I said, like, I'm someone who looks at things a bit more positively and tries to see different perspectives than just, oh, I see something I don't like, so I hate it, right? And I feel like a lot more people should do that. But hey, let me know in the comment section below what you think. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. And my name is Chevalric, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye! Different outro for everyone who's been there.